Introduction: the turning point most men never see. Welcome to the Stoic Compass, your guide to timeless wisdom for modern relationships. If you've ever felt a woman slipping away, becoming distant, unresponsive, or indifferent, you might think the battle is lost before it even begins. But what if I told you this moment is not the end, but the beginning of your greatest opportunity? Most men react with panic. They chase, beg, or desperately try to explain themselves, hoping to fix the situation with words. But attraction doesn't work that way. A woman doesn't drift away overnight. It happens in phases, and if you understand why, you can shift the entire dynamic in your favor without losing your self-respect. In this guide, we'll break down 9 crucial lessons rooted in Stoic philosophy and modern psychology to help you navigate these moments with strength, wisdom, and unshakable confidence. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why she's pulling away and why most men get it wrong. The gradual disconnection. At first, everything was effortless. She was excited to see you, eager to hear from you, fully engaged in your presence. But then, something changed. The texts became shorter, the calls less frequent, and her energy felt different. Most men assume the worst. She's lost interest. She's met someone else. She's just not into me anymore. But the reality is rarely that simple. Women don't wake up one morning and decide to stop caring. It happens over time. The law of predictability. In the beginning, there was mystery. She didn't know how you felt, what you would do next, or how deeply you were invested. That uncertainty fueled attraction. But over time, if a woman feels like she knows everything about you, if there's no more challenge, no emotional depth, she starts to disengage. Stoic lesson. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Relationships are no different. If everything becomes too predictable, too smooth, it loses its luster. Real life example. Think about a man who, early in the relationship, was busy with his ambitions, personal goals, and passions. She had to work to be part of his life, but over time, he started putting her above everything. He canceled plans for her, became available at a moment's notice, and stopped being the independent man she was first drawn to. She didn't consciously decide to lose attraction, it simply faded. The solution? Stop overcompensating. When she pulls back, don't rush forward. Match her energy. This isn't about gains, it's about maintaining self-respect. Chapter 2. The silent test you didn't even notice. The hidden challenge. Women often pull away not because they're done, but because they're testing sometimes without even realizing it. They want to know, is he emotionally strong? Will he crumble under pressure? Does he truly have options? Or was he just pretending? Most men fail immediately. She ignores a text, they send another. She cancels plans they try to reschedule right away. Every time they react out of insecurity, they reinforce that she is in control. Stoic lesson. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The true test isn't about her behavior. It's about whether you remain grounded in who you are. Real life example. Imagine a woman slowly pulling back from a man she once admired. Instead of chasing, he remains unbothered. He keeps focusing on his life, his purpose, and his own happiness. Days pass, and she begins to feel something unexpected regret. His silence speaks louder than words. The men who pass this test don't react emotionally. They don't chase, demand answers, or try to fix things. They simply hold their ground, and that's when the real shift happens. Chapter 3: The Power of Distance. Absence creates value. Men often believe that love is nurtured through constant presence. But women don't fall in love with presence, they fall in love with absence. Think about something you always have access to: your phone, for example. You barely think about it, but if you suddenly lost it, you'd feel its absence intensely. Stoic lesson. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. If you give too much, too easily, its value diminishes. Real life example. A man who constantly showers his partner with affection and availability loses his impact over time. But when he takes a step back, not as a manipulation tactic, but because he's focused on his own life, she starts to notice. She starts to wonder. That space rekindles attraction. Chapter 4: The Power of Distance. Why space rekindles desire. Most men mistakenly believe that love is reinforced by constant presence, relentless attention, and endless availability. However, history and human psychology prove the opposite. The greatest desires are often born from absence, not presence. When something is perpetually within reach, it loses its value. The more abundant something is, the less it is appreciated. Think about the air we breathe. It's essential, yet we hardly notice it. But the moment it becomes scarce, we fight desperately for it. The same principle applies to attraction. When a woman senses that she has complete access to you, the mystery vanishes, and with it, the excitement. In ancient Rome, Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a dedicated Stoic, practiced a form of detachment even in his personal life. Despite his love for his wife, he understood the importance of allowing space for reflection, growth, and longing. He knew that relationships, like everything in nature, thrive on balance. Too much closeness can suffocate, while the right amount of distance can reignite passion. This is why the strongest relationships are built on mutual respect for each other's individuality. When she pulls away, the instinct of most men is to chase, call, text, and seek reassurance. But the wise man, grounded in Stoic philosophy, does the opposite. He steps back, maintains his composure, and allows her the time and space to feel his absence. The most powerful move you can make is to reclaim your focus. Rather than scrambling to get her attention, shift your energy toward self-improvement, discipline, and purpose. When she sees that you are not chasing, but instead elevating yourself, the absence you create becomes undeniable. She starts questioning, why isn't he reacting? Did I misjudge him? And in that moment, her perception of your value changes dramatically. Chapter 5: Breaking Free from the Cycle of Chasing. What to do instead. Most men operate under the illusion that attraction can be talked into existence. They believe that if they just explain themselves, show how much they care, or prove their devotion, the woman will come back. But attraction isn't logical, it's emotional. And emotions don't respond to persuasion, they respond to perception. Picture an ancient Stoic general returning from battle bruised, hardened, yet composed. He does not plead for recognition or beg for acceptance. His presence alone commands respect. He embodies strength, resilience, and self-sufficiency. This is the kind of energy that rekindles attraction. Instead of attempting to fix the situation with words, shift your strategy entirely. Match her energy if she is distant. Do not compensate by becoming overly attentive. If she reaches out, acknowledge it, but do not overextend yourself. If she disappears and then suddenly returns, do not welcome her back with open arms as if nothing happened. Make her work to regain your presence. Many men fail at this crucial moment. A woman who has distanced herself will often test the waters by sending a casual hey or reacting to an old post. This is not an invitation to revert to old patterns. It is an opportunity to establish new boundaries. Instead of responding immediately and eagerly, take your time. Let her feel that reconnecting with you is not effortless. The Stoics believed in emotional control above all else. As Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." The ability to resist the urge to chase, to remain unfazed by emotional fluctuations, and to maintain control over your responses is the mark of a man who commands respect. Chapter 6. When she doesn't return, why this is a blessing in disguise. Not every woman will come back, and that's a truth. Every man must accept with grace. In fact, if a woman chooses not to return, she has done you a great favor. She has saved you from investing further in someone who did not recognize your value. Consider Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher who was once a slave. Despite his hardships, he never complained about what was taken from him. Instead, he focused on what was within his control, his mind, his actions, his self-respect. He taught that true power comes not from holding on to what is lost, but from embracing what remains within your grasp. If a woman walks away permanently, you must adopt the same mindset. Rather than mourning the loss, recognize it as an opportunity to elevate yourself. A woman who only stays when you chase is not a woman who truly values you. You do not want to be chosen out of convenience. You want to be chosen because you inspire admiration and respect. In Roman history, there were many leaders who suffered betrayal. Julius Caesar, for example, was surrounded by those who once swore loyalty but later turned against him. The greatest lesson here is that those who leave were never meant to stay. And rather than lamenting their departure, you should be grateful for the clarity it brings. By accepting loss with dignity, you communicate an unspoken message: I am whole, with or without you. This is the kind of strength that is truly magnetic. Chapter 7. The Power of Silence. Why Less is More. Most men believe they need to do something when a woman pulls away. They believe they need to send a message, make a gesture, or find a way to force an emotional response. But what if the most powerful response was no response at all? Silence is the great equalizer. It creates uncertainty, mystery, and emotional contrast. A woman expects a reaction when she distances herself. When she receives nothing, it forces her to confront the void left behind. The Stoics were masters of silence. Marcus Aurelius, despite being an emperor, often chose to observe rather than speak. He understood that restraint, patience, and the ability to hold one's ground were marks of true power. As he once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Silence forces the other person to reflect. It makes them question their assumptions, their choices, and their emotional responses. The moment you stop reacting is the moment you shift the dynamic in your favor. Chapter 8. Why she underestimates you. Until you go silent, women are conditioned to believe that men will always be available. They assume that no matter what, a man will be waiting, checking in, or hoping for another chance. This expectation exists because historically, most men do chase. But when a man steps out of this pattern, everything changes. Suddenly, he is no longer predictable. Suddenly, she is faced with an unsettling realization she might have misjudged him. Consider Cato the Younger, a Stoic known for his unyielding discipline. When offered bribes and temptations, he rejected them without hesitation. People assumed he could be swayed, but his unshakable integrity left them in awe. He did not need to argue or plead, his actions spoke for themselves. This is the effect of silence. It forces a woman to rethink everything she assumed about you. Chapter 9. The ultimate shift, becoming the man who never has to chase the final transformation, is not about winning her back, it's about winning yourself back. The goal is not to manipulate her into returning, but to become the kind of man who never has to chase in the first place. When you embody self-respect, emotional control, and purpose, attraction follows naturally. The best men in history, from Stoic warriors to great leaders, did not waste time convincing others of their worth. They focused on building themselves into men of undeniable value. A woman who respects you will want to stay, and a woman who does not, she was never meant for you in the first place. Final thoughts. The true path to self-mastery in love and life. At the heart of every great transformation is a shift not just in strategy, but in mindset. If you've followed through the chapters, you've already realized that relationships, attraction, and respect are not built through words, persuasion, or blind devotion. They are built through presence, absence, and, most importantly, self-possession. The greatest mistake most men make is seeking external validation instead of building internal certainty. They believe they need a woman's attention to feel valued, her approval to feel worthy, and her presence to feel complete. But what if I told you that the most magnetic, desirable men in history never sought validation in the first place? The rare breed of men who command respect without demanding it. If we study the greatest figures in history, particularly those of the Stoic era, a clear pattern emerges. Powerful men did not chase. They became so valuable, so self-contained, that the world moved around them rather than the other way around. Take Marcus Aurelius, for example. As the emperor of Rome, he faced betrayal, loss, and the weight of ruling an empire, yet he never sought approval. His journal, Meditations, is not a plea for the world to understand him. It is a declaration of self-mastery. He writes, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This is the essence of true attraction, not trying to convince someone of your worth, but becoming the kind of man whose worth is self-evident. Now, apply this to your own life. The more you focus on yourself, your growth, your ambitions, your sense of purpose, the less dependent you become on external reassurance. And the irony? The less you need validation, the more people are drawn to you. Women, in particular, are highly attuned to this. They can sense when a man is centered within himself versus when he is grasping for approval. The difference is undeniable. The unbreakable mindset of a man who knows his worth. A man who understands his own value does not overreact to temporary shifts in a relationship. He does not crumble when a woman pulls away, nor does he base his self-esteem on whether or not she returns. He operates with a different set of rules that are dictated by his own sense of purpose. This is the foundation of amor fati, a core Stoic principle that translates to love of fate. It means embracing whatever happens as necessary for your growth. If she stays, good. If she leaves, also good. A man with this mindset never loses because every experience is an opportunity to refine himself. If a woman withdraws her attention, he does not see it as a rejection, he sees it as a test. He recognizes that his response to adversity defines his character far more than the adversity itself. This is why most men remain trapped in the cycle of chasing. They are afraid of discomfort. They want certainty, reassurance, and control. But true power lies in relinquishing the need for control and embracing the unknown, becoming the man she never wants to lose. There is an undeniable irony in relationships. Women are most attracted to the men who need them the least. A man who is truly whole does not fear loss. He does not operate from scarcity, but from abundance. He knows that, regardless of the outcome, he will be fine. This level of confidence is intoxicating. Consider Julius Caesar, one of the most powerful figures of his time. When he famously crossed the Rubicon, defying the Roman Senate and committing to an uncertain war, he did so without hesitation. He did not wait for permission. He did not plead for approval. He took decisive action, fully prepared to accept whatever consequences came his way. Now, think about how most men handle relationships. They hesitate. They overthink. They seek reassurance instead of standing firm in their decisions. They operate with fear rather than conviction. And this is precisely why they lose their power. When a woman senses that a man is unsure of himself, she loses faith in him. But when she sees a man who moves through life with unwavering certainty, she cannot help but be drawn to him. Silence is not absence, it is strength. One of the hardest lessons a man must learn is that sometimes the most powerful move is to do nothing. Most men assume that silence equals passivity, that if they are not actively seeking a woman's attention, they will be forgotten. But this belief comes from a place of insecurity. The reality, true presence, is not about physical availability. It is about emotional impact. When a man withdraws his attention, he does not become irrelevant. He becomes a mystery. And mystery is one of the strongest forces in attraction. Women, just like men, crave certainty. They want to know they have control over a situation. But when a man removes himself from the equation, he forces her into a state of uncertainty. She begins to wonder, why isn't he reaching out? Has he moved on? Did I misjudge his value? This psychological shift is what creates longing. Look at the greatest warriors and leaders in history. None of them operated from a place of neediness. They were selective with their energy. They understood that their presence alone was valuable. As Seneca said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. A man who knows his worth does not beg for attention. He chooses where to place it. Living a life where you never chase, only attract. Attraction, respect, and desire are not about tactics. They are about the man you become. You do not need to memorize strategies or play psychological games. You simply need to cultivate a life so rich, so fulfilling that others want to be a part of it. When you shift your focus from chasing a woman to chasing greatness, everything else falls into place. The right people gravitate toward you. The wrong people remove themselves. And most importantly, you'll find peace in knowing that you never have to force what is meant for you. This is why the greatest lesson in attraction is not about getting her back. It is about getting yourself back. It is about becoming the kind of man who moves through life with purpose, discipline, and strength. A woman may leave. She may return. She may test your patience. But none of that matters if you are grounded within yourself. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful position you can hold is not the one where you are chasing it, is the one where you are so complete within yourself that you never have to chase at all. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So think like a man who is already enough. Move like a man who knows his worth. Live like a man who does not wait for validation, but instead creates a life so compelling that others want to be a part of it. That is where true power lies. That is what makes you unforgettable.